Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, where Jan Tore mainly, and a little bit me, are going to talk to you about Naviate Zero. Let's start with a short intro. I see many familiar names. Thank you for joining in again. For you who are new to the BIM-timen, that's the Norwegian word for webinar. We have the BIM-timen on Friday, about once a month. Our aim in the webinars is to present the challenge and the solution to that challenge. Today is a little bit different. We're going to step into a whole new technology called Naviate Zero, and Jan Tore is going to talk a lot more about that afterwards. The main thing I would like to tell you now is that we will take questions from you, and we will do our best to answer them live. So please make this a sort of a dialogue. You can't, we can't hear you, but you all have a questions panel. Please use that, so we are able to provide you as much information as possible. Also, we will record a webinar and publish it probably in the middle of next week. If you find this valuable, please share it with your colleagues and your peers, so they can take advantage of the webinar as well. So what are we going to see today? Naviate Zero, a brand new product in the Naviate portfolio from Symetri. What we aim to do is to provide you a tool to make informed decisions to be able to have a sustainable project. So how do we do that? We have a tool that lets your materials in Revit talk to the EPD repository, which is not quite large, it's very large. You will get the EPD data back to your Revit model, and you will be able to use it to calculate the global warming potential. So you might want to see this in action. Jan Tore, are you ready to take over and show the people what we have done so far?
Yes, I am. At least I will try my best to give an insight on what to expect. Perfect. Coming up, we're going to talk about Naviate Zero today, and myself, Jan Tore Bugge, product manager for Naviate Global, that will take you through today's presentation. I've put together a short agenda so you know what to expect in the different steps. So a short introduction why we are doing this. I will go a little bit by our initiatives, high level, so you see what the Naviate portfolio are working by. We have some principles there. The solution we're talking about, the MVP. MVP stands for minimal viable product to be released. I will also give you a slightly insight on the coming roadmap, some ideas we have already in place. I will talk about how you can engage with us going forward on Naviate Zero, and the question and answers at the end. So let's go on. Sustainability. I think this is a really good picture on what's happening today. Everything from the climate change, heat waves, ecosystems that is disrupted. You see issues with food security because of the climate changes, flooding where there were never floods before, and we are losing the biodiversity on the globe, more or less. And this is something we need to act on in one way or another. And looking at the construction industry, there are several numbers here. We are focusing on the 40% and 11%. So there's different levels of carbon emission. So we have decided to start off with looking at the 11% of carbon emission that comes from what we call embodied carbon, meaning the carbon that is produced creating or producing a product, meaning could be a chair, a wall, producing concrete, etc., etc. What is the embodied carbon producing that element? And we are are focusing on that part, and we would like to bring that into the value chain or the BIM world and make it accessible for you as a designer. So be able to specify and use materials with as low carbon emission, embodied carbon as possible throughout the life cycle for your projects. We need to focus on designing for reuse, recycle, and end of life of the building. And we also need to choose more, how should I say, products that is produced with renewable energy sources. So all the different aspects we need to consider during early design in the project. There are solutions out there today that are like one-click LCA that do the full life cycle assessment, but we would like to bring this CO2 or impact when it comes to embodied carbon as early in your design process as possible. So if you look on the life cycle high level, we are talking about A, B, and C. If you look on the first part, when it comes to the product stage, that's A1 to A3. What it takes extracting the raw material, transport it to the manufacturing site, and produce it for delivery on site, and then installation or assembly that happens on the construction site. So this is the main focus with Naviate Zero in step 1. Looking a little bit into the initiatives, Symetri Tech that stands behind the Naviate portfolio, in addition to some other on IP. We are working by 4 main drivers daily. The first one is the process efficiency. So as you know, we sit on top of Revit, Civil 3D, we're working with BIM G60, ACC, etc. So we are trying to optimize the workflows, filling the gaps in the platform technologies, so you can work more efficient in your products or in your disciplines, if it's architecture, structure, etc. We would like to also focus on how customers use BIM and how you manage the information smartly and secure the ownership of the data throughout your project or the life cycle. Also, adding and make sure that you have a good adoption, that you can learn how to use the products the best way. So learning is a very important part of being within the Naviate family, more or less. And the last one is sustainability. As I said, focus on embodied carbon to help you to make sustainable decisions on materials as early as possible in your project. To do that, we needed to do some partnership. And for those that have seen the news coming out, I think it will happen in January, February this year. So there are 3 sets of elements here. We have the Naviate Zero, that's focused on the embodied carbon part of the footprint in the AC industry. We are also in the future focusing on how we can work with our colleagues on the manufacturing side, because somebody needs to create those EPDs or make sure that we have the correct values on the different products that is produced. And Naviate Zero is meant to be that solution to help our manufacturer customers to provide those type of data. And the technology partner we have signed an agreement with and working closely with is one-click LCA. And the reason why we're doing this is that, as we have seen searching out in the market on a global level, is that one-click LCA is the company that has the most extensive repository on EPD data and genetic values throughout the globe. And by connecting to them, we are able to deliver that into Naviate Zero so that you can leverage that in your design. So to put out the picture, just to solve the different sides. So the Naviate Zero is focusing on stage A1 to A3. And then we rely on one-click LCA to do the full life cycle assessment, covering the stages from B to D. So meaning that we will make you more efficient providing EPD and values, CO2 values in early stages. and then make sure to move that data also throughout the life cycle, engaging and doing the analysis through one-click LCA. On the other side, on the left side, Naviate Zero could be a solution for manufacturers to provide EPDs, meaning that you can look at this as a life cycle, meaning that Naviate Zero could help manufacturers providing EPDs that will be uploaded to one-click LCA. We leverage that data down in Naviate Zero on the AEC side. Then you have kind of the cycle that we can provide on both sides. So Naviate Zero, the first part will be some mockups, meaning that there are some dialog boxes you will see. I will walk through the different functionality you will be able to have in Naviate Zero when we launch it. And I will end with a live walkthrough in the product, just to give you a little bit look and feel and what you can expect in Naviate Zero. So imagine you sit in Revit 23 or Revit 24 when that comes. You have your model there, and you have a couple of options. You can start by selecting one element, you can select multiple elements, etc. And then you start the Naviate Zero application. Of course, you need to consider some settings. That's kind of important before you head of doing adding some EPDs, etc. So one part of the setting is to define where are your projects. Is it in Sweden, Norway, North America, UK, etc. You also need to consider what phases you are working with. Is this new construction or existing construction? And the most important part of all is the units, because based on the units, we do the calculation, and if we are working with wrong units, the calculation will be wrong. So you need to decide by category level if you're going to work with the pieces, area, length, or volume. And that setting is saved, and then you can reuse that for your next project and next project, etc. So that brings us into the main dialogue. So you have two sides here. One on the left side is your model in hand, and on the right side is the EPDs. I will come back to the right side later on. If you look on the left side, where you in fact have your whole model in a list view, you have a setup defined. You have the category, you have the family, the different types, and you have the resources part there. And here you can also see the different units that should be different per category. Of course, having this big view, you should be able to start filtering. You would like to focus on one type of families or one category or one material in your model. So we need to have some filtering capabilities in the product. So that's this button. We have two levels. You can start by searching for a category, material, or family, whatever, to narrow down your what elements or what families you would like to work with. The second one is that you can start sorting. You can sort by category, like if you would like to work with materials or families, which type of categories within the model you would like to work with. Is this wall, windows, doors, floors, etc. And go down to the types. So make this as relevant as possible to make sure that you do the right apply the right resources on the right elements or materials in your model. If you see, so you can look like this. This is a mock-up, so this is not real data, but you will get presentations from all the categories in the model in that sense. If you go down, you can see that we have something called multi-materials down here, the window here. That means that we are exposing and letting you know that there are some layers, some material layers within that family, the window family, like glazing, you have the frame, etc. So we are detecting these type of materials. So you are able to, if you're working with glassing materials, you'll be able to add the EPD or the value for glass on that family in your project, more or less, or the frame that is aluminium in this case. That brings us over to the right side. So the right side is your EPD repository, meaning as soon as you start clicking on the left side, choosing the exterior walls or interior walls, etc., you'll see the right side updating accordingly. So we are mapping the EPDs with the Revit materials, in fact. So we will always provide the most relevant data on the right side. And you can see you will have the resources, which type of manufacturer. We will see that later in the video I will present it here. We will give you some high-level insight how sustainable that material is, grading from dark green to red. So, of course, we would like to avoid the red materials, but sometimes you don't have so many options that you need to do that. So the next thing, as you see, we have, as we have on the left side, on the right side, we also have a filter button, and that's where we are filtering on data sources. So meaning, are you using data from EU? Are you using data from Sweden, from Norway, or we can choose one source or several sources, depending on where you are fetching or getting your products in your model from. You can start also sorting down to, okay, I have chosen materials on the left side. I'm going to work with bricks. Okay, choose the brick category on the right side. I'm not allowed to use actual EPDs in this project as for now, so I need to focus on the generic values that is available in the country I'm working in. And I will try to focus on very low at the moment, at the first start, and see if that makes sense for my project. And of course, pieces or this unit part is also important. And you can start clicking around. You can pin it, meaning that you can favorite this one, and we will recognize that you have some favorite materials in the project. And next time you use Naviate Zero, we will take that into consideration and provide you with the favorites you have selected from the previous one. Going on, you can see that we have ticked some materials here. And in the next part, we would like to see how sustainable or how much embodied carbon is within this material versus that material and the third one. So we have a compare button there. So we can provide you with some comparison when it comes to the different material. And that's measured in carbon kilo per kilo, CO2 emission per kilo in this case. So the scale goes here from 0 to 400, 0 to 300, and 350. And of course, in this case, you will try to use the one with the lowest one. And you can already here start clicking apply. And you can apply then this material or this generic value on these three elements you have on the left side. You can also, without comparing, of course, apply it directly from the main view onto the different materials. If you are by mistake working with wrong units, you have the wrong setup, you will be informed about it. Wrong units is used, you're not able to add the generic value or the EPD. You will also get information if there are currently EPDs on the actual material or the object or the family itself or the category, and then you will be able to then update or change accordingly. When it's successful, we will notify you in the bottom here that the EPD has been applied to all the selected elements on the left side. So there will be a lot of information on the bottom of the dialog, what you're working with, how many elements you have selected, etc., etc. So you should be in control on how much elements you're working on at the moment, for sure. We are storing the EPD data or the generic values in your model, but we are not storing it on the material itself or the family itself. So we are using what we call in Revit, what we call extensible storage. So we are linking the information to the actual family or the material in the model. This is how we have chosen to store all the data you're working with, of course. Next step is that there's a lot of data, there's a lot of tables, lists. So to be able to really engage with other stakeholders in a project and start discussing how can we lower the embodied carbon in this project, we need to have some visuals. So we will be able to provide you with some pie charts. It could be by category, as you see on the left side, or it could be by material on the right side. And it will give you an insight on which element, which material, which category is impacting my model most. And then it's easy that, okay, makes sense. I need to start with the one that impacts the model most and see if I can lower the carbon footprint there by changing, for instance, concrete. You have something called green concrete and see how that is impacting the model. And you will be able to update or see updated numbers, CO2 footprint for your project as you work throughout your model step by step. It's going up or it's going down. Make sense? Further on, you should be able to leverage the work you have done here in Naviate Zero to move, as I showed you in the beginning, to the next phase, because you would like to then start focusing on a full life cycle assessment. So you should be able to export the data you have created here into one-click LCA, so and more or less prepare one-click LCA with all the data you have created to do the last part, going from B to D throughout the full life cycles when the building is used, maintenance, and end of life. So that brings us over to what we call the Naviate Zero MVP, released summer 2023. We have no date set yet, but this is the goal then. So as a user in Revit, I would like to access CO2 values, generic values in my project, and I'll be able to add them to my elements, materials, families. I would like to access actual EPDs as well and add data to my Revit families and materials. I would like to help, or like Naviate to help me to choose the best EPDs within the right category based on the elements in my model in one way or another. Some automation, and who knows, in the future, there's a lot of hype and buzz around AI today, and why not see if AI can help us be even smarter working with Naviate Zero and EPDs and embodied carbon. Who knows? And of course, compare different EPDs is important, so you do the right or the smart decision based on your model and the need for different materials. You also would like to see the impact per category in the project, like the visual dashboard you just saw. And the last part, be able to export the data to one-click LCA. So, question, I guess, what differ us on Naviate Zero versus one-click LCA? They also have a Revit integration, for sure. The goal is that we have brought as much as possible into your design environment. So when you're iterating and working with your model, you would like to avoid exporting data. Get information that you need to change something, you need to then import it back and do the change and you export, etc. So we will try to keep you within the design environment, a Revit platform in this case, and do the changes on the fly accordingly and see the impact. How does this work for my model according to the need for a certain level of embodied carbon? Further on, in Naviate Zero, we do the summarization of CO2 emission, the global warming potential for all the products you have in the building directly. In Naviate Zero, you don't need one-click LCA license in the beginning during the initial start for doing the life cycle assessment in early stage, calculating the GWP. Working with one-click LCA is directly in the start is kind of a one-time off, so, and then you need to do another one and another one. By saving data in the Revit project, we can make sure that you have continuously a setup on EPDs that you can work on, changing back and forth all the time by writing it down to the extensible storage in Revit. Yeah, as I said earlier, instantly feedback on the GWP values for all the elements or a specific building element in the project. And by using Naviate Zero, you can have multidisciplinary users in your project adding EPDs or generic values at the same time. So on the architecture side or the electrical side or structure side, they can work together, collaborate, and start adding the different EPDs they need to add into your model. So by only leveraging one-click LCA, it's one user per project, more or less. So we will see that you can work more efficient by leveraging the usage of Naviate Zero in your project and get faster to the result and move on going forward. We have the MVP aim to be released summer 23, but we have, of course, seen different needs that we need to add to the product going forward. And we have some ideas on what we need to do based on feedback from customers already. So customers would like to visualize the CO2 impact per element and type, rank from high to low in the project in an efficient way. And here comes the AI discussion, making Naviate Zero even smarter. And based on your location, previous behavior, what have you chosen before, we suggest to use these EPDs or these values. That's something we consider doing forward. And of course, you would like to compare different footprints by using design options. Design options is not the same as using Revit design options. Have that in mind. The next one, you would like to be able to compare the CO2 footprint versus the cost in the project. Everything comes with a cost. So by choosing option A, B, and C, it has a cost with it. So you need to kind of balance the footprint goal you have versus the cost in the project and see how that comes out. Next one is that have a small dashboard or a meter just showing you the current state of the model, if you are above or below the goal for the project. So some small monitor program that shows the progress and the results while you're working in Revit. Be able to export the EPD data, of course, into an IC file is an important part. We also talked about this one, but this one is already in the MVP. So be able to reuse the data into one-click LCA. So get a head start doing the full lifecycle assessment in one-click LCA. So that is already on the map. So you out there as a user or a customer of Symetri, how can you impact? How can you take part of the ideation? How can you impact in what direction Naviate Zero will become in the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 12 months going forward? So for some of you, you probably already know, we have an ideation portal on Naviate where we collect all our ideas within all different product ranges, everything from Naviate architecture, structure, rebar, whatever product we have internally, you have the possibility to add your ideas there. Those ideas are reviewed every week. Those are rated based on votes. So meaning the more customers are voting on different ideas, the more likely is that we're going to prioritize those going into the next development cycle. So top voted ideas is important for us. And then we approve things, and document things, create use cases, and put it into development. So the ideation portal looks like this. It's free for everybody to go in there. You don't even have to log in. Then again, it's kind of connected to the My Symetri or the Symetri ID you're currently using on Naviate. So by doing this, it's important to recognize you as a user in here, because we would like to communicate back and forth with you. And by voting and creating ideas, you kind of follow the idea from ideation state to a developed feature or a product out there on the other end. So you will be kept informed going forward as you see the idea moves into the different cycles in Symetri. Okay, I promised you a sneak peek video walking us through how it looks today. So I asked one of the developers to give me a presentation. I recorded it, and I created a small film here. So I'm going to talk through the film as you see it here. So this is the early alpha version, if you would like, and that shows you Naviate Zero in live in Revit. So dive into Revit, you have the ribbon for Naviate Zero up here, and you have the main dialog down here. You have more or less have your model in hand. You can search, you can check, you can sort, you can do or do whatever you like, and make sure to focus on the right elements in your model. As I said, on the right side, you have the option to already start adding, and you can see that here you got a message that wrong unit is chosen. In this case, you need to correct that one. And you are able to withdraw, as you call it here, remove the EPDs on different sources, and then add new ones on the fly. Sometimes you would like to focus on some parts of the building or elements in the building, so you can go by selected only approach and only see the things you would like. You could do that also by working with some accelerate features like live selection or filter elements, whatever you would like to do. Different approaches. So we're trying to support different use cases out there that really makes sense for you, for sure. And here you can see the search part, searching for curtain walls. It's popping up, so you can see it's live. You start checking elements. You can by checking several elements or few elements, and when you check the elements, you can search within those elements as well, or those categories. As you can see, we are prompting you, okay, be on the displaying 1 of 5 selected elements. So we should try to keep as informed as possible what you actually are doing. And here you also can see initial high level searching by category or sorting by category, doors, windows, walls. And always prompting you and informing you with the boxes down on the bottom of the dialog boxes what you're doing. It's very important, so you know that you are working with the right elements. But anyway, if you by mistake add the wrong EPD to the wrong family or category, you can always remove it, of course, and withdraw the resource, as we call it here. Okay, on the right side then, the EPDs. As you see here, we're working with aluminium frame glass. You can sort on text, A, B, or C, or from the bottom up. And you're of course able also to start searching on top there, depending on what you're looking for. Maybe you have some favorite materials that you are using. On the data source part, you have different areas, different EPDs in different countries. You can select one, you can select multiple, depending on where you're getting your materials from. And of course, everybody would like to click very low or low and see what pops up in the EPD repository, for sure. Sometimes there are no dark green EPDs, but then you have low instead. And then you can start applying those. I'm not sure, Per-Ole, if that makes sense for you.
for me, it makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's important to have the focus, as I was saying. We would like to keep the users within the Revit or the known design platform and avoid exporting and importing data. It's so much more efficient working within Revit rather than doing that other workflow. Do we have any questions or?
Not many so far. I have one, and that's more in regards to the licensing model when Naviate Zero comes.
Did you answer that?
Yes, you talked about it earlier.
Yeah. So we have a license model. It's single licenses, as you probably know on some other products as well. We have the possibility to have some single licenses and multi-user licenses. In this case, Naviate Zero is supporting single license users.
Thank you. One more question here. Is it possible to add prices / costs to different materials?
Then you go. Could we probably should go back to the roadmap? In the first release, or the first MVP, as we call it, we are not considering cost, but I know there are cost or standard cost tables or data out there in the different countries, and that's the next step we kind of need to consider. But choosing material A comes with cost B, and we need to balance that. So that's the next phase of where Naviate Zero is going, adding the cost element into the model. So yes, we are thinking about it, but the first version doesn't have that capability.
Yeah, and that's all the questions so far. There comes one more. If the walls are not detailed with the weight of gypsum, studs, insulation, and so on, how do we get the carbon impact?
Then we come back to what we call multi elements, or what we should call it. If we are able to detect the family or the walls as object, meaning that we detect the isolation, we detect the gyps and all the elements in the wall, we are exposing those layers in your model. So you can be able to work with insulation in your model if you are able to expose that data. It's called multi-elements or multi-layers, like I showed in the beginning. So like for a window, we are able to detect the glass area, the frame area, and so on and so forth. And by doing that, we are able to add, if you are working with one glazing material, for instance, in the model, you are able to add that on the glazing materials itself, but also glazing within the family itself.
Thank you, Antonio. Is there any option to trial Naviate Zero?
When we have released it?
For instance, yes.
For instance, yes. We have the product page, or the first draft, or the first product page is up and running. There you have the possibility to sign up for staying informed on the launch date. The date is not set yet, but most likely going to happen just after summer, meaning the summer vacation in the Nordics. But it will be, when you would like to try out the product, it will be by application only access. So you need to reach out to us and ask to be a part of evaluating Naviate Zero, the Naviate Zero product. And by doing that, you also are committing to give us feedback. So we make sure we are doing the right choice, how should I say, decide which direction we would like Naviate Zero to go. So we are totally reliant on you out there to make sure that we are choosing the right path and developing Naviate Zero in the right direction that makes sense for you out there. So by application only, you can get access to Naviate Zero, and we will communicate back and forth with you to make sure that we capture the feedback you have testing it out. That's the approach.
And questions keep popping up here. Another good one. Will Naviate Zero work with BIM 360/ACC? And what versions will Naviate Zero be applied on?
Okay, the first one first then. When it comes to BIM 360 ACC, it's going to be the same as for the other Naviate products supporting BIM 360 and ACC. Nothing strange there. When it comes to, you are connecting to everything like architecture, accelerator, structure, etc. So yes. And the second one was?
Which versions of Revit?
Okay, yeah, right. So there will be 23 and onwards. So the first or this MVP will support the Naviate or Revit 2023 and Revit 2024. That's the decision we have made. So when it comes to supporting the different platforms.
Good. And the final one so far, is it possible to get the climate declaration we have sent to the Swedish agencies?
Would that person elaborate a little bit more?
Peter, do you have the possibility to elaborate your question? On a generic basis, Jan Tore, we are accessing the EPD data, which are in one-click LCA.
Yeah, as one of the main reasons why we partner up with one-click LCA is that they have a separate team weekly or daily investigating and searching to make sure that they are capturing all the different EPDs, the new EPDs coming up, but also all the generic values that is set for different countries. So for Sweden, you have the Swedish Boverket that has generic values for Sweden. That will be available through Naviate Zero. We have an update running every day. I think the updates coming up from one-click LCA is on a weekly basis. I could be mistaken, but as within 24 hours, any new data that appears within the repository will be available to be used in Naviate Zero.
Thank you. I have another one, which you have answered a little bit here, but let's take the whole question.
I think also a follow-up question could be.
Yeah.
I can just take that one step regarding if you're sending EPDs into the Swedish Boverket or something else. I know also a question that pops up sometimes is that I have my own values within my company. Could I make use of that in the same solution? So I think that makes sense. So in the future, you should also be able to upload your own values side by side with what we have in the connection to the main repository we have. So you can start working with your own generic values as well, if you have set those, of course. And those are aligned with the country standards you're working by. What are the sources of this database? As I said, its direct sources are one-click LCA that has the most extensive database in the world. It gets updated, as I said, it gets updated on a weekly weekly base from one-click LCA. We are making sure that we are aligned within 24 hours if there are something changed on their side. So it should be possible to access an EPD when the EPD is made available from one-click LCA the day after. Thank you for joining today. And for any questions, I guess you can engage and send or even call Per-Ola and ask questions on things that you haven't been able to ask during this presentation, or you can reach out to me. I would encourage you to sign up for the web page. Maybe I can show it to you so you have that. Yeah, here. Do I have the screen or not? And if not, yeah, I can do that. So on naviate.com, you have the Naviate Zero page, and you go in here. You can read about what I've been talking to you about today, the capabilities and what we are solving, the key functionalities, and also some standard questions, FAQs that we added already that we know are asked out there. So By clicking this button, sign me up for launch information. We will make sure to keep you updated when we come close to the launch date, and make sure that you are informed when we are doing so. So I think by that, Per-Ole, we say thank you for today. Thank you for joining. And when it comes to the BIM-timen, I guess we'll see you next time on the next topic. And please reach out if you have any questions to us. Okay.
I agree. Thank you all, and have a great weekend when it comes.